Have you ever asked yourself this? Okay, I can find the elasticity when I sing, the elasticity in the sound, the elasticity that the vocal cords should have as they stretch and thin as I am singing higher and higher in my range. I can sigh. Ah. I can yawn. Ah. I can sing in head voice with laryngeal tilt, with an open throat, and everything feels wonderful and elastic. But the sound is breathy. There's no clarity. There's no brilliance. There's no laser-like quality. There's no squillo, chiaro. It doesn't sound like I am speaking. The diction, the vowel isn't really understandable. It's just kind of this yawnful, sighful, breathy tone. So then you think, fine, I need to close my vocal cords. And then the second you try that, everything changes. Now you have clarity, you have resistance, you have a stronger, more defined tone, but suddenly you've lost the elasticity that you once had. The voice feels thicker. It feels stuck. Maybe it even feels like the vocal folds don't or can't stretch and thin anymore. So you go back to trying to recover and discover that elastic feeling. But now the vocal folds have separated and you're breathy again. And you're stuck in this loop of trying to find elasticity but not having clarity, or clarity but not having elasticity. It's incredibly frustrating. What are you supposed to do? Hello, dear singers, and we have another video for you guys today. If you watched my recent videos, you know that our recent topic has been about chord closure, adduction, resistance, making contact with the air as we sing. And I'm hoping that this video, in a way, finalizes this conversation, because the question is, how do I find elasticity and firmness together? Either I get one or the other. I can't seem to find how to make those two concepts work together. If only there was something that could give me a glimpse into what that sensation would be like to sing elastic and have a sense of resistance, of clarity. Straws! SOVT exercises. Now I know that I've already made a video before about straws and SOVT exercises, but I want to come back to this topic because I want to clarify, what are SOVT exercises used for? What is it about these straws that it can be useful to our singing? Well, this topic about finding elasticity and firmness is what SOVT exercises are meant for. And we need to understand this is a tool. It's a crutch, I would say. It's not going to show you how to sing. It's not a magical thing that will out of nowhere fix your singing. It's just a glimpse into what a sensation would feel like. So, SOVT means semi-occluded vocal tract. So here's my vocal tract. It's not open. It's not completely occluded, which would mean completely closed. It's semi-occluded. So semi-closed or very narrow opening to the vocal tract. One of the easiest examples is singing through a straw. But I want you to understand, what is it that the straw is doing? Because the straw itself is not the technique. When you sing normally, the sound and airflow are leaving relatively through a large opening of your mouth. But now, put a straw in front of that system, suddenly all that airflow has to move through this tiny little opening. And that creates a resistance. More specifically, it creates back pressure above the vocal folds. You have to understand, this gives you an artificial sense of chord closure, an artificial sense of resistance. Now, this is where it becomes very useful for the singer. You can keep the same elastic setup that you were finding before. Staying on the laryngeal tilt, that sense of lengthening and elongating the vocal tract must be there even when you sing through a straw, really when you sing anything. The open throat, the freedom of that sighing or yawning coordination. But now, you're not simply allowing air to pour freely through the glottis. The straw gives the system something to work against. And that is what resistance means. Can you imagine going to the gym and just lifting your arms? This could be a nice stretch for somebody, but you're not going to go to the gym to just lift your arms because there is no resistance. You're not going to get much progress just doing this. This would be the same idea as singing like this. No resistance. No, you want to have a weight that pushes against your arm as you're trying to lift off. Now you have a resistance. This is why we call it resistance training when you go and lift weights, right? So we have a resistance in which the arm wants to go up, but the weight is pulling down. And so if you're doing it healthy and correctly, you're going to pick a weight that you can manage, not something too heavy, in which your arm will win, but it's going up with resistance. There is a certain amount of tension that we need to have something working against the other. And it's the same thing here. We need a certain amount of resistance to work against the body. If not, it's no. Now we have a resistance. Singing through the straw gives you that artificial sense of resistance because it's all going through this hole. And suddenly, you may finally experience something that felt almost impossible before. Elasticity and resistance at the same time. This is the sensation, the glimpse of what the straw is showing you. This is what you want to pay attention to. We're looking for elasticity with efficient closure. That is the name of the game. The vocal folds still have to stretch. They still have to thin. They need to remain flexible enough to change pitch. That's how they change pitch, by changing their state, getting stretchier and thinner or getting shorter and fatter. That's how you change pitch as vibration is happening. But as this is happening, this must stay the same throughout that process. They need to come together efficiently, firm enough that there is no excessive leakage of air and you don't sound breathy or half breathy. And these type of exercises like the straw can help you experience that balance without your first instinct just being close harder, because closing harder eventually just becomes squeezing. And once you squeeze, it's a domino effect in which you start to lose elasticity. So let's talk about some SOVT exercises. As we discussed, the straw is one of them. Singing through a straw. This straw in particular has actually quite a big opening, a little bit too big for my comfort, right? But the idea is you want to maintain your singing position. As if you were gonna sing to an audience, you still wanna maintain that. You don't wanna sing through the straw with a high laryngeal position. No. Suck through the straw. There's your ooh valvula, right? There's your valve, your deep ooh position, your elongated vocal tract. Now you're ready to sing. You're in your elastic position. Now start doing your vocalizations through that. You're going to start to feel a sense of resistance, a sense of buzz, as if the air wants to flow, but it's being funneled through a tiny little hole. Therefore, you can't just puff all your air out. No, it has to go through this funnel. So you want also a really good seal. I also at times like to take a straw and put it a little bit deeper, as if it's a connection to my vocal tract. These are just valves. This is a tube, just like the straw is a tube. Connect them together. See how deep it is? Now for a straw like this, I already know that this is limited. Eventually, I either want to get a straw with a smaller hole, or I simply put my finger in front of it to make the hole a bit smaller. And I feel more resistance. Look what happens if I open the hole. It gets harder because more air is flowing, and for those specific pitches, I need more narrowing, more resistance. Think of that balloon idea in which you inflate a balloon, let it go, no resistance. Same thing as singing that way. Now, if you inflate the balloon and you do what we all do when we're kids, and we pinch the neck of the balloon and we just stretch it so that the exit, the opening is now tiny, we get that. That's what we want to do with the voice, with the vocal cords. The straw is just an artificial way of giving you that sensation so that you feel what that's like, and then you can replicate. You could do it with a straw. You could do it also with a straw and a cup of water, or really any liquid. If for some reason you like to see that the air is still flowing as you're singing, even though there is a resistance, so the air never stops, but it's also not being released in a puff. There is a elongation of the exhalation process in which the air is flowing, but it's coming in a steady stream because the vocal cords are coming together in a firm and elastic way. Now, if you don't have a straw or a cup, you could simply take a towel, or I have some napkins here, or even your shirt. I'll show you a couple different ways of doing still SOVT exercise. Put the napkins right here and close your mouth. Get into your singing position. You always want to be in your singing position for any of these exercises. Because the napkins in this case are blocking most of my mouth, and I'm on purpose also trying to get a seal, the air is escaping through little crevices of the napkin, therefore gives you a semi-occluded exercise. You can take a towel and do the same thing with a napkin. You could take your shirt. You could take your hand, like the palm of your hand, put it right here as if you're biting an apple, biting your palm. And you want to make sure you are creating somewhat of a seal. Your forearm. If you don't have any hands, you could just use your mouth. For example, this is one that Long actually told me about, and I actually like it very much. Long was one of our guests for our Tenor Talk podcast. And it goes a little something like this. Fill your cheeks with air. Get into your laryngeal tilt position and blow as if you're trying to blow out a candle, so that the air is coming out with a steady stream. Now, just make a little hum or a little buzz as you do that same process. Semi-occluded vocal tract exercises. Make sure that your mouth position is tiny and small. The tinier, the more resistance. And as you ascend, you're going to need more resistance. As you ascend, you want to make the opening smaller and smaller and smaller. You could do it with a V, as if you're saying V, but make sure you have it nice and sealed. A very, almost like if you're playing a trumpet. You know how the trumpet players have that little peak? And there's so many more of them out there. You can literally make up your own, because really all it is just semi-occluding the escape route of the air, which in this case is your mouth, while doing it with a elongated laryngeal position on the tilt. Now here's the important part. These exercises are not your technique. Actually, when you do these exercises, your vocal cords are staying quite open and loose. What they are there for is to give you a false sense of closure, an artificial sense of closure. You're not learning to sing through a straw. It's a temporary external resistance that makes certain vocal coordination easier for the developing singer. It's a crutch. It's a training tool. It's a bridge. It shows you a glimpse into what those sensations are like to have elasticity and firmness. But eventually, the straw has to go away. All these exercises have to go away, and you have to open your mouth and replicate that sense of closure, resistance, through the vocal cords, not through an external source. It's the vocal folds that need to regulate the airflow efficiently, while still maintaining their ability to stretch and thin. That's the real use of an SOVT exercise or an SOVT tool. That's the real transfer. So if you can sing beautifully through a straw, but the second you remove it, you go back to either being breathy or pressed, then you haven't finished the exercise. You haven't made that transfer yet. The goal is to learn something from the straw, but not be dependent on it. When you're doing these exercises, ask yourself, what changed when I sang through the straw? Where did the unnecessary effort disappear? What happened to the airflow? What happened to the elasticity? What happened to my sense of resistance? And then slowly by slowly begin to remove the artificial help while trying to preserve as much of that newly discovered coordination as possible. Because ultimately, operatic singing isn't choosing between closure or elasticity. It's learning how to have closure with elasticity, closure without gripping, grabbing, tensing, forcing, as well as resistance without rigidity, and having that clear, squillante, bright sound without sacrificing the state of elasticity that the vocal folds need to have, especially if you're singing tenor. And that, and only that, is the use of SOVT exercises. Too many people become obsessed with these to the point that they can't sing without them. It's a tool, so you need to understand what is the objective of that tool. That's all for today, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like, share, subscribe. I believe this will close our topic in vocal cord adduction, vocal cord closure. If you haven't seen my 2 recent videos that begin this topic, go back, check them out. If you are looking for deeper context, perks and benefits, ways to get more information out of this channel, think about becoming a CTS member, as there are special benefits to those who join the community. And depending on the level that you choose, you get specific benefits and more pointers from me and any future guests of this channel. Like always, continue practicing, continue studying. The work continues. Ciao, ciao for now.